So I ended up here exploring some, I guess, medieval Central Europe hermit caves. And the thing that I have to think about a lot while traveling through Hungary is weather. So, and as you can see, a lot of our ancestors also, like, their main concern was weather. So what is weather and how can we use it to actually give more life to the world that we are trying to give to our players? Weather is defined as the state of the atmosphere at a given time and place with respect to variables such as temperature, moisture, wind, speed and direction, and biometric pressure. Or at least that's what Google says. So we are used to usual things: rain, thunder, blizzards, storms, sandstorms, very hot weather, hailstorms, and yeah, most of the time when you're using weather in game, you would use it as some form of like difficulty that is added on top of whatever the players are doing. And okay, we can use, for example, lightning strikes. They go down from the sky, they hit something, your players have to roll a reflex save or whatever. And maybe you even went a step further and you have acid rain that melts armor of certain creatures or something like that. And by the way, I don't know if you know about it, but there are actually fireballs as nature phenomena, like circular ball-like lightning, that exists for some reason. So your players are not the only ones who can throw fireball. But what if we take into account different types of natural phenomena, something that we might consider weather, some things that we didn't even know is not weather by the official definition, but affects us and could affect our players as much as weather or maybe even more. For example, earthquakes. We all know about earthquakes, and they are not weather, they are geological phenomena. They can change terrain, they can change the course of a battle or combat in a blink of a second. And one more thing, earthquakes, they can be a type of foreshadowing for a tsunami. And what is a tsunami? It is also a geological or like oceanographic phenomena, and it's not a meteorologic one. But we can kind of say it has a certain feel like weather could, and maybe the earthquake was just a type of foreshadowing for it, and maybe the tsunami is the real threat that our players should prepare for. How do NPCs react in a coastal city like this? How do players prepare for this type of like hit? Who is responsible for what is happening? No one. It's just nature. So my idea here is to look at weather not as something that is just an addition to your adventure, something that is happening in the background, but like in those caves of Central European or Russian hermits that I've shown before, for them, the main quest was to hide from bad weather. So let me tell you a story of how I went to this festival in Hungary, and this was our first camping experience in the first festival we ever went to. So what we did was, naturally, we bought our stands. We didn't bring any lights or anything because, you know, city kids, we thought forests have city lights for some reason. And the second night we had a storm, and I was not in a tent of this size, of course. I was basically in a little beach tent, and the storm destroyed everything. Since then, we are totally paranoid of like what is going to happen. Like, we're trying to bring bigger tents, stronger poles, better gazebos, and anything to be prepared for any type of weather. Is it going to be sunny? Well, I have my trusty hat. Is it going to be very windy like this? Well, you have to tie everything down. So we're constantly preparing, and it's become almost like a game for us, preparing for the weather and seeing how our things are holding up. The weather can be, in a sense, the quest giver. Protecting yourself or anticipating some natural disaster or some natural phenomena can be the adventure. So while on the topic of water and rain, tides. Yeah, tides are not really weather. They're fluctuations in sea level caused by gravitational pull of mostly the moon, but also to some extent the sun. And yeah, they're also something natural that happens around us, and we don't really think about it that much. But in the game, imagine a coastal city, imagine the stars and the celestial bodies have another property, like maybe they are
pulling different kinds of liquids. Maybe only liquid metal is drawn to the stars. Maybe it's blood, maybe it's some other form of liquid. Maybe they are making tides fluctuate the sea level a lot. Like maybe it happens every 5,000 years, and this is the year that your players end up in a city, locked in and ready to try and prepare the city for the tide. Maybe the tides don't fluctuate the water level, maybe they change it in strange shapes, maybe they divide water, for example. How does the world change in these types of constellations and these types of phenomena? Now that we are dipping our toes in space phenomena, this festival that I'm on right now came into existence in '99 because of the solar eclipse. So what does the solar eclipse do? It is a very strong phenomena. Cultures have been built around it, and people might react to it. Maybe some monsters change, like werewolves, for example. Maybe they only respond to solar eclipses and not the moon. So what if there is a solar eclipse in the middle of combat, for example? Does the day turn into night? Is there multiple suns? What happens when all the suns are eclipsed? And think, like, what is eclipsing 3 suns? Maybe it's not a normal phenomenon. Maybe it's aliens. To add on top of that, my friend who is traveling with me had an amazing idea. What happens is if you have an eclipse in a place that is not familiar with eclipses during combat, and your players are witnessed killing a lot of things during that eclipse, will they become gods in the eyes of the locals, or will they become demons? Will they be hunted or worshipped? How does the natural weather and the coincidence of the weather aligning with what your players are doing affect the way that locals see them? Maybe it didn't happen with humans. Maybe there were a couple of goblins that witnessed that. Now your players have an army of goblins that think they are gods and are willing to do their bidding. So then you start thinking even more extreme. What about high-level players? What about very destructive world-ending events? Well, there are meteor showers. That's something that happens from time to time. A lot of meteors actually fall on Earth, and some of them create craters, some don't. Some cause mass extinction events, as you know. But meteor showers, how local are they? That's the first question I would ask. How big is the impact? And how much before the event happens do you have to foreshadow that something like this will happen? Think about these things. Then we can go even further, like supernovas that spew things into our planet. What happens? Maybe things fundamentally start changing from their DNA, and everything becomes like something that happened in the book Annihilation. I don't know, I'm just brainstorming right now. After 10 days of festival life, my brain is kind of scattered even more than usual. Then now when we are talking about space, first thing that comes to my mind is solar storms. So solar storms are basically disturbances on the sun's surface, and those disturbances spew out a lot of radiation, a lot of energy towards Earth. And a lot of them happen, but some actually reach Earth and go through our magnetic protection layer, and they cause electronics to stop working. So they are very disruptive events in the sense that the technology that your world has can be affected by it. So what about magic? Do solar storms in your world affect magic? Maybe some types of magic stop working and the others start existing. These are very disruptive events. Imagine a solar storm happening right now. There would be a global blackout. It's fascinating to see how these phenomena affect the wider population, the world, how they show us what our weak spots are. What you should think about when having any of these phenomena happen. So you should, as a DM, be aware that you can use this to restructure terrain or limit movement. A giant chasm opens in the ground. The players cannot cross it. An earthquake destroys a bridge. A sinkhole opens and swallows the important NPC and closes. How does that affect your players if they are first level versus how does it affect them when they are, 10th level? The same thing can be used with floods. Some parts of the town maybe are flooded, or there is hot lava spewing out of the ground and you can't pass here, or it deals damage if you touch it. These types of things are nothing more than regular manipulation of terrain and changing the terrain during battle that DMs use a lot of times. Then how big the area of the effect is? Is it just a simple scene, maybe around your encounter? Is it something that's following the players? Is it maybe something that affects the whole city, a whole country, even bigger, the world? And it is important to think of how do locals respond to this?
Are they scared? Are they angry? Are they like changing the way they live? For example, if you have read the three-body problem, and small spoilers ahead, there is a civilization of aliens living on a planet that has 3 suns, and these 3 suns are actually like so unpredictable in their like seasonal changes that the society is burrowing underground, and they have evolved a technique of like drying themselves up so that they can survive the droughts until the suns rearrange and the conditions for survival and living are met again. How does your version of Earth's weather or cosmic weather or any natural phenomena affect how the people in the affected area are responding or evolving, or both?
One very important thing to keep in mind, like I've given a lot of examples of like how disruptive it can be, how like it can change things from mechanical side in combat, or it can change like the world as we know it and everything in between. The most important thing to take away from this is that you need to foreshadow these things. Leave signs. These things shouldn't happen out of nowhere. They can be like a thing that happens out of nowhere if it's like a spell that changes weather or something like that. But don't do the rocks fall, everyone dies type of situation. If you have a meteor shower, describe the stars in the sky becoming bigger and bigger over a couple of sessions. What if the clouds change color? Maybe you foreshadow the rain as the wind is getting louder. Maybe if you have a soundboard, click a couple of buttons there. Give signs. Maybe your players go into a tavern where the locals talk about this astrology that's just going on about the end of the world and nothing's happening. And then as the players start researching, they see something is going to happen. You want your players to be able to prepare for this type of event, so you need some form of foreshadowing that it will happen, and you need to have a reward ready for their preparation. In a sense, you can't let them create some form of like huts or protection from the weather just to end up saying, well, your preparation is not good enough, rocks fall, you all die. This is not what you want. And another thing that you can do is, if you have, for example, one of the players be stronger than the others, have a certain class that is more tanky or deals more damage, and they are kind of the leaders in combat, and your party kind of found their own sweet spot, comfort zone of how they handle encounters, well, you can mix it up with weather and with this natural phenomena. As I said, earthquakes are good for changing the terrain, but what if you cut off that one melee fighter and now he's battling the lava monsters on one of the floating island rocks or whatever, and the rest of the party has to figure out how to battle the main villain without his help. Think about how you can use natural phenomena and the environment to change how your party will approach certain problems. So at the end of the day, when thinking about weather, don't think only about weather, think about all the natural phenomena that we perceive as like things Mother Nature is doing to us.
And with that, safe travels, and I bid you
farewell, keepers.